Hi children, welcome back to our channel. Children, we were talking about regarding the law of demand, right? So as a summary, what do you mean by law of demand? If there's a negative relationship between the price of a particular good and its quantity demand, right? When there's a negative relationship between the price and the quantity demand of a particular good shows the law of demand. That is what we have discussed in last part of our lesson, right? So today we are going to talk about what are the reasons of law of demand. Why does the law of demand happens? Right, so we are going to talk about why does the law of demand happens, or what are the reasons of law of demand, right? So before that children, due to law of demand, right, everyone knows due to law of demand we know what happened to our demand curve children. Demand curve of a particular good, does it get upward sloping or downward sloping? Definitely, it gets downward sloping. The reason is why law of demand means there's a negative relationship between the price and the quantity demand. Because of that, children, our demand curve gets downward sloping demand curve, right? So for a normal good, everyone knows what are normal goods. Everyone knows what are normal goods. If there's a positive relationship between our income and the demand for that good, such goods are normal goods, right? What does it mean? When our income increases, when the nominal income, when our salary increases, if we increase the demand for particular good, such goods are normal goods. For example, a sofa set, iPhones, right? All are normal goods. Why? When our salary increases or when our nominal income increases, definitely children, we buy more and more sofas. We buy more and more iPhones. So such goods are we normally considered as normal goods, right? So here we are talking about law of demand for normal goods. Right. So for because of the law of demand for normal goods, our demand curve gets a downward sloping demand curve. Right. So here everyone know this is quantity demand of a particular good and this is the price of the particular good in terms of rupees, here in terms of units. Right. So due to law of demand, our demand curve gets downward sloping demand curve. What does it mean? Here children, let's take an example. When the price, let's take if the price of a particular good is 100 rupees. Here let's assume consumers buy only 20 units of that good. Right. But let's assume if the price of this particular good reduces from 100 to 30 rupees, then what happened to its quantity demand? Here children, you can see it increases from 20 to, let's assume, 50. Right. This is, what does it mean by the downward sloping demand curve? When the price increases, we reduce the quantity demand. When the price decreases, we increase the quantity demand, right? Because of that reason, our demand curve for a normal good gets downward sloping demand curve, right? So today what we are going to talk about, why does the downward sloping demand curve happen? Or what are the reasons of law of demand? Or why does, when the price of a particular good increases, its quantity demand reduces? Why? We are talking that one in this part, right? So those are the actually we are going to talk about the reasons of law of demand, reasons of downward sloping demand curve of a normal good, right? So these areas are very, very important areas for your exam, children. There can be different types of questions asked in your exam, right? But the answer that you need to write should be same, children. For example, if they ask what are the reasons of law of demand, then the question is very easy. But if they ask in another term like why does the demand curve for a normal good get downward slope, different kind of questions can be asked, but the answer should be same, right? That is the behavior of our paper, children. That is the behavior of our subject, right? So you all have to remember, you all have to get the meanings of the questions, get the idea of the question, then you can write the answers correctly, right? Okay, so what are the reasons of law of demand? Why this demand curve gets downward sloping for a normal good? Or why when the price of a concerned good increases, why consumer reduce the quantity demand? Why? Right? Okay, so let's see what are the reasons of law of demand, right? So this one you have to remember, children, right? Here, why does demand curve get downward slope? This type of questions can be asked in the paper, right? Or the reasons of law of demand, right? Here, children, you all have to remember, basically there are two reasons of law of demand. There are two reasons of law of demand. One is substitution effect. One is substitution effect. We'll discuss what is that effect in later on, right? So one of the main reason of law of demand is substitution effect, and the other one is income effect. Income effect. The second one. So basically there are two reasons of law of demand. One is substitution effect and the other one is income effect. Now we'll see what are these effects, what are these reasons in detail, right? So I will take the first one, that is substitution effect. One of the main reasons of law of demand is substitution effect, right? Okay, let's discuss what is that. Substitution effect. Right? We are talking about the reasons of law of demand, and one of the main reason is substitution effect. Let's see what is that. Okay, children. Substitution effect means this is substitution effect. Let's assume we'll take the same example, iPhones. Right, our concerned good is iPhone. Concerned good means the good that we concerned, right? The good that we consume or concerned, right? Okay, let's see. When the price of the iPhone, increases, it becomes more expensive, isn't it, children? It becomes more expensive when the price of the iPhone increases compared to let's see Samsung phones, right? You all know iPhones and Samsung phones are substitute goods. What are substitute goods, children? We have already discussed, right? You all know, I know, right? What are substitute goods? The goods that we can use instead of another good, right? The goods that we can use instead of another good. For example, we can use iPhones or we can use Samsung phones, right? So such goods are substitute goods. Another example, we can use sugar or we can use honey. Likewise, we can use tea or we can use coffee. Such goods are substitute goods, right? So when we talk about substitution effect, right, we have to compare the prices of substitute goods and the prices of our concerned good. Then we can make our decision, right? Okay, let's see. Our concerned good is our iPhone according to our example, right? Our concerned good is the iPhone, right? Okay, let's see a substitution good. Let's take Samsung phones, right? Here, children, you all have to remember when we talk about substitution effect or when we talk about law of demand, I told you only the price of a particular good changes when other factors of affecting demand held constant, right? Which means the price of the substitute goods also remains constant when we discuss the substitution effect, right? So let's get an example. Before the price changes, let's assume iPhones and Samsung phones, right? The prices of iPhones and Samsung phones are same. Let's assume 100,000. Here, children, this is just an example, right? We cannot buy brand new iPhone for 100,000, right? So this is just an example. Let's assume the price of an iPhone is just 100,000, as well as Samsung phone also 100,000 before the price changes, right? Now let's see what happened to the price of the iPhone. Increases, right? Which means let's assume this becomes 200,000 rupees, right? Only the price of our concerned good changes. The price of other substitute good does not change. It should be remains constant. It's an assumption we make when we talk about the law of demand, right? Which means the price of the Samsung phones remains constant, which means still the price of the Samsung phone is 100,000 rupees. Only the price of the iPhone becomes increased, right? 200,000. Because of that, children, the price of the iPhone becomes more expensive than the price of the Samsung phone. This is more expensive, right? So when the price of our concerned good increases, it becomes relatively more expensive, right? Relative price of iPhones become more expensive means that one also increases. Relative price means the price of our concerned good compared to the price of the substitute good. It becomes more expensive. More expensive means relative price also increases, right? Because the Samsung phone remains the price of the Samsung phone remains constant. Only the price of our concerned good, it increases, right? So the relative price of iPhone increases, become more expensive. Then as a rational consumer, what we are going to do? Do we like to buy iPhones still? No, we are going to do? We tend to buy Samsung phones. We shift to the Samsung phones by reducing the quantity demand of iPhones, right? People shift to Samsung phones because the price of the Samsung phones are very cheaper than the price of the iPhones, the price of the concerned good. That's why as a rational consumer, we shift to the other good, right? Because of that, what happened to the quantity demand of iPhones? It reduces, right? Because people shift to the Samsung phones. People who consume iPhones, they will shift to the Samsung phones. Therefore, the quantity demand of iPhones get reduces, right? So, what happened? When the price of the iPhone or when the price of our concerned good increases, it becomes more expensive than the price of the substitute good, which means the relative price also increases, right? Therefore, people shift. People shift to substitute good. According to our example, what is our substitute good? Samsung phones, right? Samsung phones. People shift to Samsung phones. Right? Which means, what happened to the quantity demand of iPhones? It reduces. The quantity demand of iPhones reduces because people now they buy Samsung phones. They reduce the quantity demand of iPhones, right? So quantity demand of iPhones reduces, right? So here children, what is actually the substitution effect? If there is a negative relationship, again there's a negative relationship between the relative price of the concerned good. Here children, iPhone is our concerned good. Concerned good we can represent by X, right? The relative price of the iPhone, if there's a negative relationship between the relative price of the concerned good and its quantity demand. Here children, you can see there's a negative relationship. The arrows are going the opposite directions, right? If there's a negative relationship between the relative price of the concerned good and its quantity demand, that is the meaning of substitution effect. This is one of the main reasons for law of demand. So here you can see there's a negative relationship, right? When the price of the concerned good increases, it becomes more expensive, which means its relative price also increases. Therefore, people shift to buy substitute goods by reducing the concerned good. Therefore, what happened to the quantity demand of our good? It reduces. So here you can see there's a negative relationship between the relative price and the quantity demand of concerned good. That is the meaning of substitution effect, right? On the other hand, let's see what happens when the price of the concerned good reduces. When the price of iPhones or when the price of concerned good reduces, now what happened to relative price? Oh, now what happened to the price of iPhones? It becomes more cheaper, right? So it becomes more cheaper, which means the relative price of iPhones become more cheaper, which means it reduces. Therefore, what we are going to do now, the people who consume Samsung phones will shift to our concerned good, which means the people who consume Samsung phones they will shift to iPhones, right? People shift to, people buy more iPhones now. The people who consume Samsung phones, they shift to the iPhones, which means what happened to the quantity demand of iPhones? Now it increases. Therefore, the quantity demand of iPhones, what happened? It increases. Right. So here, children, again you can see there's a negative relationship. There's a negative relationship between the relative price of the concerned good and its quantity demand when the price of the particular good changes. That is the meaning of substitution effect. So you all have to remember, when we talk about substitution effect, only the price of the concerned good changes. All other factors affecting demand held constant, including the price of the substitute good also. Which means, according to our example, the price of the Samsung phones also remains constant. Only the price of the iPhones changes. That is very, very important part you all have to remember. Right? So this is what we call substitution effect. So for a normal good, there's a negative substitution effect. There's a negative relationship between the relative price of the concerned good and the quantity demand of that good. That is the meaning of negative substitution effect or just substitution effect. Right? I hope you understood. If there's any doubt, let me know. Right? So how can we define the substitution effect, children? Here you have to remember this relationship. Then you can define, children. Otherwise, don't by heart. Don't by heart, you will forget in the exam. Don't by heart, get the idea. Get the idea of the substitution effect. Right? So as I told you, substitution effect means when all other factors affecting demand held constant, including what? The price of substitute good. That one also should be remains constant. Right? When the price of the concerned good, X, changes, what happened to its relative price? Or when the price of the concerned good increases, the relative price becomes more expensive than the price of the substitute good. Then what we are doing? We reduce the quantity demand of iPhones and people shift to Samsung phones. Right? So people shift to Samsung phones or people shift to substitute good. Therefore, as a result, the quantity demand of the concerned good, the quantity demand of iPhones reduces. And on the other hand, when the price of the concerned good reduces, it becomes more cheaper than the price of the substitute good. Then people tend to buy more and more iPhones. Then what happened to its quantity demand? Quantity demand increases. So here you can see it has a negative substitution effect for a normal good. Right? Okay. So how can we define the substitution effect, children? Under the ceteris paribus, can you remember ceteris paribus? Ceteris paribus means when all other factors affecting demand held constant. That is the meaning of ceteris paribus, right? So we can explain like this. When all other factors affecting demand held constant, including what? including, here we are talking the substitution effect, then it's better to write including what? The price of the substitution effect also. The price of the substitute good, right? Including the price of the substitute good. Right? If the price of the concerned good changes, right? When all other factors affecting demand held constant, including the price of substitute good. Okay, let's here we can conclude. If there's a negative relationship, if there is a negative relationship between what? Between the relative price. You have to remember, children. Between the relative price. Between the relative price of which good? Our concerned good, right? Good. And its quantity demand. That is the substitution effect. When all other factors affecting demand held constant, including the price of the substitute good, when there's a negative relationship between the relative price of the concerned good and the quantity demand of that good, when the price of the concerned good changes. This is what we call the substitution effect. One of the reasons of law of demand is substitution effect. So the substitution effect means what? Under the assumption of ceteris paribus, which means this is all other factors affecting demand held constant, including the price of the substitute good. When there's a negative relationship between the relative price of the concerned good and its quantity demand, when the price of the concerned good changes. That is the meaning of substitution effect. Right? So you can explain in detail. After that you can explain if the price of the concerned good increases, it becomes more expensive. Therefore people shift to the substitute good. Therefore the quantity demand reduces, and vice versa. Likewise, you can explain little bit in detail after this. This is the meaning of, this is the definition of substitute effect. Right? Okay. So I hope everyone understood. If you have any doubt, children, please comment in our comment box. Right? I know these areas are a little bit difficult. These are important keywords, children, you all have to remember. Right? Important keywords you all have to remember. You can't miss these keywords, children. You will lose your marks. Right? Okay, now let's see the other reason of law of demand, that is income effect. Right? Okay, let's see. Income effect. What does it mean, income effect? Right. Income effect. Here, children, when we talk about reasons of law of demand, you all have to remember factors affecting demand. What are the factors affecting demand? Can you remember? We have already discussed price of the concerned good, PX, price of other related goods, which means price of substitute goods and price of complementary goods, right? Then consumer taste, consumer nominal income. This is very, very important when we talk about income effect. Consumer nominal income, yield, right? And number of consumers in the market and future expectations and the other factors. Oh, other factors, right? These are the factors affecting demand for a particular good. When we talk about the reasons of law of demand, or when we talk about the income effect, you all have to remember, children, only the price of the concerned good changes. The other factors, which means price of substitute good, price of complementary good, taste of the consumer, consumer nominal income should be remain constant, number of consumers in the market should be remain constant, future expectations and other factors. All these other factors should be remain constant. Only the price of the concerned good changes when we talk about the reasons of law of demand, or when we talk about the law of demand. Price of the concerned good විතරයි change වෙන්නේ. අනිත් හැම fact එකක්ම අපි assume කරනවා change වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. හැබැයි real world එකේ all these factors changes simultaneously, children. මේ හැම fact එකක්ම එකම වෙලාවෙදි change වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Because of that reason, we can't talk about the direct reason for the law of demand. That's why we assume only the price of the concerned good changes. All other factors affecting demand held constant, right? Okay, let's back to the income effect. What do you mean by income effect? Again, you all have to remember all other factors affecting demand held constant, including what? When we talk about income effect, including this one, consumers' nominal income. Consumers' nominal income also remains constant. Children, what do you mean by nominal income? For an example, nominal income is the income that you receive for each and every month, right? The salary, the wages, those are nominal income, children. The wage, the salary should remains constant when we talk about income effect, right? Only the price of the particular good changes, price of the iPhone changes, not our salary. The salary should be remains constant. The consumer's nominal income should be remains constant. Only the price of the concerned good changes when we talk about income effect. That is very, very important point you all have to remember, right? Okay, let's see. When we talk about income effect, right? When the price of the concerned good, our concerned good is, you all know, iPhones, right? Okay, let's, here iPhones. Our nominal income is just our nominal income. Y represent nominal income, you all know, right? The salary, yield. Y means yield, right? The nominal income, right? It should be remains constant. Let's assume our nominal income is 100,000. Here also 100,000, right? Right? The nominal income is 100,000, children. The nominal income. The price of the concerned good, let's assume, before changes, price of the concerned good, 100,000. The price of the iPhone is 100,000. How much of units that you can buy from your nominal income. Price of the iPhone is 100,000. You have 100,000 of income, which means you can buy only one iPhone, which means quantity demand of iPhones is 1, right? Or the purchasing power, the number of units that you can buy from your nominal income represent the purchasing power or the real income, right? Only one unit, only one iPhone you can buy from your 100,000 of nominal income, right? Then what happened? Okay, let's assume what happened to the price. Here, price of the iPhone increases from 100,000 to, let's assume it increases up to 200,000, right? 200,000. Here, let's get their nominal income is. Our nominal income is, let's get 4,000, right? Our salary is 400,000 per month, right? So how many units that you can get before price changes? 4 units, not 1. Now you can buy 4 iPhones from 400,000 because the price of one iPhone is just 100,000. You have salary 400,000. Then you can buy 4 iPhones. Now what happened? The price of the iPhone increases from 100,000 to 200,000. Then how many units? What is your purchasing power? iPhones දැන් කීයද ගන්න පුළුවන්? ඔයාගේ salary එක 400,000. දැන් price of the iPhone වෙනවා 200,000. එහෙනම් දැන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. How many number of units of iPhones that now you can buy? Only 2 units. Which means, Pute, what happened to the purchasing power? Purchasing power reduces. Purchasing power. This is the meaning of purchasing power. Or we are giving a name called, this is the real income of the consumer. It reduces from 4 to 2. Purchasing power කියන්නේ ඔයාගේ nominal income එකෙන් ඔයාට iPhones කීයක් ගන්න පුළුවන්ද? That is the purchasing power or the real income, right? These words are very, very important when we talk about income effect, right, children? So now let's see, when the price of iPhones increases, according to this example, from 100,000 to 200,000, children, what happened to our purchasing power? What happened to our real income? It reduces. අපිට කලින් iPhones 4ක් ගන්න පුළුවන් වුණා. හැබැයි දැන් ගන්න පුළුවන් only 2 units, right? So, what happened to the purchasing power of the people? Purchasing power or the real income, not the nominal income, children. This is nominal income, your salary. This is real income, your purchasing power, right? Nominal income reduces. Real income reduces or the purchasing power reduces, which means what happened to the quantity demand of iPhones? Here, children, you can see the quantity demand reduces, right? Let's see on the other way around. Let's see when the price of iPhones now reduces. Now reduces. Let's assume here. Now what happened? Before the price changes, price of the iPhone is 100,000. Now let's assume it becomes just 50,000 rupees. Let's see what happened to our purchasing power, or let's see what happened to our real income. What happened? Before the price changes, how many iPhones you can buy from your nominal income? 4 iPhones you can buy. Now what happened? Now the price of the iPhone is just 50,000 and your nominal income is 400,000. How many iPhones that you can buy? How can we get? You have to divide 400,000 by 50,000. How many units you can buy? 8 iPhones you can buy. Now you can buy 8 units of iPhones. Before the price changes, you could buy only 4 units of iPhones. But now you can buy 8 number of iPhones you can buy from your nominal income. Right? Which means what happened to our purchasing power? It increases. What happened to real income? It increases. Right? So, when the price of iPhones reduces from 100,000 to 50,000, what happened to our purchasing power, children? Purchasing power increases, right? Or as the real income of the consumer increases, which means the quantity demand of iPhones, what happened? From 4 to 8 now you can buy, which means the quantity demand of iPhones increases, right? So, what do you mean by the income effect? Income effect means, children, here, not the relationship between price and the quantity demand. When we talk about the income effect, then what is the relationship? The relationship between the real income or the purchasing power and the quantity demand when the price of the particular good changes. Here, according to our example, what kind of relationship? The directions are same, which means positive or negative, children? Positive relationship. Here, for a normal good, right? For a normal good, the income effect is positive. Here, the income effect is positive. That is the meaning of income effect for a normal good. When there is a positive income effect for a normal good, when the price of the concerned good changes, that is the meaning of income effect, right? When there is a positive relationship between the real income and the quantity demand of concerned good, when the price of the concerned good changes, that is known as income effect, right? So, these are the two reasons of law of demand. One is substitution effect and the other one is income effect, right? So this one, how can we define income effect for a normal good, children? So please write, how can we define the income effect? You all have to remember our main assumption. All other factors affecting demand held constant, including the nominal income, right? So, when all other factors affecting demand held constant, including what? Including consumers. Which income? The nominal income. Consumers' nominal income. Consumers' nominal income should be remains constant when we talk about income effect. Only the price of the concerned good changes, right? There is a positive relationship. Here, what kind of relationship for income effect? Positive relationship. Positive relationship between consumers' real income or the purchasing power. Real income and the quantity demand of concerned good when price of the concerned good changes. This is the meaning of income effect. These are very, very important keywords. Consumers' real income and the quantity demand of consumer concerned good. And there's a positive relationship. And once you write this, you can explain a little bit in detail. Right? When the price of the concerned good increases, the consumer's purchasing power decreases. Therefore, people tend to buy less of the concerned good, right? Which means they reduce the quantity demand of the concerned good because their purchasing power reduces. That's why, right? On the other hand, when the price of the concerned good reduces, then our purchasing power increases. Then people tend to buy more and more iPhones, which means the quantity demand of the concerned good rises, right? Therefore, there's a positive relationship, positive income effect for a normal good, right? So basically these are the two reasons, right? These are the two reasons of law of demand. One is substitution effect and the other one is income effect, right? So these areas are very, very important for your exam, children. So if you have any doubt, let me know, children, right? So everyone, I hope everyone understood our lesson. So have a nice day, children.